I've always said there's something about a C.S. Lewis woman. And the other day when you told me that you are a C.S. Lewis fan, I stopped in my tracks and I thought, I knew it.
You know, yeah, yes. And it started, George, honestly, way back when I was a little girl. Mom she used to read Prince Caspian to us. And of course, after that, once I got old enough to do it, I went through the whole Chronicles of Narnia and read that myself. But that's where it started. And then it continued my, my attachment, my, kind of obsession. It's probably not the best word, but I've always been a fan of C.S. Lewis. So once I transitioned to college, I started attending a church, and the lead pastor was really on us about reading the screw tape letters. And that was transformative. So yeah, when you
Wow.
made that video the other day, immediately I said, wait a minute, I think Aldous Huxley, and then, and Brave New World is another
Yes.
one.
Yes.
And it just, when I hear the media, I think about them being agents of Uncle Screwtape and then the mainstream media. And when I, reflect on Brave New World about this obsession that the powers that be have with creating this utopia, that was what I read about as a girl. So yeah, that's where that came from.
So I see a spiritual side
Mm-hmm.
that is very visual as well, because C.S. Lewis, as he writes and as you read, you have a movie playing in your head.
Yeah.
He just doesn't make you think; he makes you see characters.
Mm-hmm.
And also, one of the things I noticed in following your comments, you sound very libertarian to me. You sound like a free-thinking woman who's not going to be caged in to anything, and you're not going to let anyone define you. Can you comment on that?
Libertarian. I don't like labels. However, I'm very much into being a free thinker. Just to get back to Brave New World. So I think it's in the epigraph that it talks about how, you know, intellectuals and the privileged people, the intellects of the day eventually, in some century in the future, would get around to getting away from perfection with the utopia and getting more into freedom. And I've just always been passionate about freedom, about people being able to do what they want to do as long as they're not hurting anybody else.
Yeah.
As a business owner, I think you had made a video the other day. You made a great point about who is not going to be agents of the Gestapo, agents of the state. And honestly, when I think about, small business owners like you and I think that, and then also families, the nuclear family, I feel like that those businesses, those families, those are going to be the entities that are going to kind of, put the brakes on the perfection that they're looking for. And, those are going to be the cultivators, the family, the incubator for freedom, the small business, the incubator for freedom. So yeah, I people have called me like libertarian-esque. But yeah, I guess I'm just passionate about freedom. Yeah. So
Yeah, it's funny when people say libertarian. I know libertarians don't like labels.
mm-hmm.
So, as what I would call I guess to put two words together, a conservatarian. That's
mm-hmm.
kind of like that's the angle that I'm coming from.
Mm-hmm.
If I had to choose a label, that's probably what I would most identify with, I guess, because that's like a big thing now in the United States. What do you identify as? Well, I identify as a freedom lover. That's what I identify as.
Yeah. Yep. So I would agree with that. Freedom lover, a conservatarian. What I refuse to be identified as, and these are my own terms that I concocted in my head, I refuse to be a Demopublican or a Republicrat, because
And
I don't see any distinction really when you look at it. When you look at our two-party system, it really is, and that the mainstream media, they play into all of that. It's the red team versus the blue team. No, it's really the purple team. it's red and blue, and they're just, going back and forth. It's entertainment, I guess, is the best thing. So entertainment, confusion, distraction, all of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you went into a restaurant and you sat down at a table and they handed you a menu and you opened up the menu and there was only 2 items on the menu, you would be thinking, where's all your other dishes? What else do you serve here? But when it comes to American politics, they're giving us a menu with 2 items on the menu, and everything else is despised or made fun of, or you're considered obtuse or freaky, or, oh, you don't stand a chance. And I think probably the past, I'd say 20 years, we're leaning more towards having a third party, which is, I think, is kind of a catch-all phrase for independent. A lot of people will say, I'm independent. And I'll ask the question, well, what exactly do you mean by independent? And, it's what I call like the Chinese menu, like 2 items from A, 1 item from B, and I do like that because I vote values. I don't vote party. I'm what they call, years ago, they used to call me a values voter. And that's who candidates have to appeal to. I think the days of the hardcore party voter are coming to an end. I really think so.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And just what has happened on the internet has kind of blown that, pitiful menu idea out of the water. Yes, it has opened so many people's eyes up to options in terms of what they think and what they believe in, and what they want to study more about and learn more about. So absolutely, I'm looking forward to a third party. I think that's a great thing. We need that.
Yeah. Now, you did watch the video that I put out earlier about barbershops and salons, and I know that struck a chord with you. I chose a woman who is a legend on the East Coast in the Mid-Atlantic states. Everybody knows her. She's a fashion icon. She has created looks and makeup on some of the most beautiful people that we've seen on TV and magazines and so forth. And I thought she would be the perfect person to have a conversation with about how are we going to re-enter our industry? What's going to happen? I mean, it sounds like it's going to be more of a pain in the neck than anything else. And I can see a lot of people just saying, that's it, I'm done with the hair industry. I'm done with the beauty industry. This is not what I signed up for. What are your thoughts about now you're in Chicago, am I correct?
Yes.
And I don't know what's going on in Chicago as far as lockdown and the rolling out of the new phases and stuff like that, and how it's going to affect the industry. But so maybe you can give us kind of like that northern Midwestern perspective of what's going to happen to the hair and beauty industry.
So as far as the lockdown is concerned, Governor Pritzker, our governor here in Illinois, just extended the order to the end of May. So we are ordered to shelter in place until the end of May. The order did change from the original executive order. For example, nurseries, where you get your nice trees and shrubbery, they're now considered essential. They can be open, and there are just some guidelines in place with social distancing at the nursery and so forth. Dog groomers are now essential, so they are allowed to open now, as in May 1st. So the nurseries are allowed to open, dog groomers.
Maybe I should have went to the dog groomer to get my hair cut. Who knows?
Yes, you did a great job on your own hair. So yeah, dog groomers are allowed to open on May 1st. They don't have to wait until June 1st like us. And there are some other businesses. I think they're opening the state parks and some other things for people. Now, going forward with how we're going to proceed, we've already decided that we're going to have a reduced load. I think you had mentioned client load. So you had mentioned maybe you get to 8 to 10 clients per day. Well, if you are sanitizing, if you're cleaning and disinfecting implements and all that in between clients, it's a lot, and then we have to allow for contact time. So, Barberside, 10 minutes contact. If you happen to come up on some Barberside wipes, which they're back ordered forever, it seems like.
Yep.
That's Barberside wipes, it's only 2 minutes contact time. So
Yeah.
you have to disinfect between every client. You can't do as many in a day, and then you have to make sure that there are not too many people within a certain space. I work in a smaller salon. There are 3 operators there, and yeah, we're going to have to adhere to the 10-person rule. Not only are we doing that, we have to clean and disinfect. Oh, we also, so you talked about face shields,
Yeah.
disposable aprons, disposable capes, the towels. We can't, I have to admit, George, I was, thinking, oh my goodness, this is, my rent is going to go up because now laundry is going to go up because my owner is going to have to make sure to launder the towels daily. She doesn't do it every day. She was doing it every few days. It wasn't, but now we can't have that there. It's just a lot. I'm a little, like I was sharing with you, when we first started talking, I'm a little overwhelmed by it. I have to admit, and I'm just been, praying through it, but it's a lot. It's a lot.
Yeah, it's definitely going to impact the industry. It's going to, I think a lot of people are going to walk out of the industry. I think a lot of people will go underground. There's going to be a lot more garage and basement barbers and stylists, or kitchen stylists, I think.
Mm-hmm.
The licensed salons that we go to, the actual brick and mortar building that we go to, life is going to change. There's not going to be any waiting rooms. You heard Denise say that. There won't be a coffee bar. People are going to have to come and sit in their car and call and say, okay, I've arrived. And then the receptionist will call them, and then they'll come in. And then someone has to go behind them and wipe doorknobs. And it just sounds like a real buzzkill to me.
It sounds like that beauty services are going to become a luxury item at this, if we have to proceed in this manner. I've already, incorporated COVID-19 as an upcharge in my, on my list of services. As I think I'm underestimating exactly. I don't know really how much it's going to cost. I had a conversation with my accountant about filing for next year, and she's just kind of like, I don't know. And so it's just, yeah, this is going to change everything. I been thinking too, okay, do I want to continue to be in the beauty industry in this capacity? And I've been thinking, oh, well, maybe I don't know. Maybe I want to get more into teaching. I've been thinking about all of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, they say that prosperity conceals genius, but adversity reveals it. So tough times, some people just fold up, and that's it. When times get tough, other people get creative. So who knows, maybe new industries are going to be born out of these tough times that will serve the beauty industry. Who knows?
Yeah, yes, I'm hopeful about that. I think we definitely need more domestic production of all of the PPE and everything related to this. We should not be getting that stuff from China. And that's, the Governor Pritzker just talks about that in one of his recent press conferences, saying it was like he proudly said, we ordered these, how many ever, 1,000 masks from China. We should be doing that stuff here at home.
Right.
So.
Right. And that's an opportunity, I think, for somebody, some company. I guess it was in Detroit, there were some automotive manufacturers that were making ventilators. And I thought, okay, that's good. Those people are used to assembling things on an assembly line. What a good use of those human resources and of those skills.
Yes, absolutely. And yeah, genius born out of adversity. And that, that's a good point. It reminds me again of another thing I remember from the Screw Tape letters. I think that evil Uncle Screwtape was talking about how I guess he was, talking to the nephew Wormwood. The nephew was excited about the person, the patient, the target of his evil doings being down on his luck or feeling down. And his more senior uncle had to remind him, hey, when people go down, they get on their knees and they start having meaningful conversations with God. So yeah, I think that something great, I'll say something great is going to come out of this. Several things, many things great are going to come out of this. So, yeah.
I have a following of about 142,000 people, 96% men. It has gone from about 90 to 90, It used to be 100% men, and then it went down to 90. Now it's up to 96, and about 4% women. And the women that I have following me on my channel are quite vocal and not afraid to speak up, but not in a obnoxious way. They're not man-hating women or anything like that, although I do have a lot of men that are not huge fans of women. And I do realize that there was a point in the history of my channel where I was attracting a lot of that. And I like to consider my channel an emergency room for people who have an acute pain, and then also a clinic or a rehab to kind of be able to walk on their own. When it comes to the women who have written me and are avid followers, they all have one thing in common, and they're all good conversationalists. That's the first thing, because the letters I get, the comments I get are pretty deep. I will say that your comments have made me think. They're not just pat George on the back. I've actually read them, and I've gone, let me look more into that. Maybe that's something I need to consider. And you've been very provocative in that way, without being finger pointing, without being a victim, without playing the woman card. Where does all this come from in you? Because, like I've said, there is something about a C.S. Lewis woman, but there's more to you than that. Where does all this come from?
Where does this? Well, I guess out of, back to your great comment, out of adversity, genius is born. You know, you kind of have to have a breakdown to have a breakthrough. And honestly, I mean, given, you know, the context that you just really beautifully laid out, I was conned, for lack of a better word, by feminism. And it's something that was the feminism that got me was something, I think it came mostly from mom, okay, and dad too, but I think that they thought that they were doing the right thing. You know, they were engineering me, socially engineering me along with the media to be, hey, Miss Independent, you know, a go-getter, a super student with a size 6, you know, a tiny waist, pageant ready super student, you know, make sure you got more degrees behind your name than a thermometer, you know, just go all out, compete with everybody, including men. And I was kind of socially engineered into that and found myself absolutely and utterly exhausted, George. Because we're not wired. I'm not wired to compete with men. And so it was exhausting. I was attracting a lot of feminine men, that were looking for me to take care of them. You know, they were big fans of role reversal. You go out and grind it out and walk 10 miles to get back to the house, and I'll see you when you get home, and you better have my dinner after you've worked, you know, 16 hours. Like, that's what I attracted. So it took a breakup, which is what happens with a lot of, you know, your followers. It took a breakup for me to do some serious prayer and meditation and soul searching and just come to grips with what I was clinging on to that needed to be worked through so I could, you know, create the life that I wanted. So, so I got out of that masculine frame. I got into my femininity, you know, and it started, I mean, probably one of the most basic things I did, because I've been into fitness, you know, all this whole time. One of the first things I did was I changed my fitness wardrobe. And so it was all my, you know, exercise clothes were pretty bright colors that only women would, you know, likely wear. And, you know, putting on makeup every day and making sure hair is done every day, putting on a dress. You talked about dresses. I love that. Just resting comfortably in my femininity and allowing him, whoever he is, to take the lead. So, yeah. That's it, I guess. I know it was long, but yeah.
I love that response. And, you know, I'm a firm believer that men should be teaching men and women should be teaching women. And what I'm not going to do is ask you to give a word of hope and encouragement to the men. That's my job. To my female audience, what would you say? What words of hope and encouragement would you give to my female audience that I would not be able to give?
Let's see. I would say to your female audience, ladies, look forward every day to resting comfortably in your femininity. Just look forward, be soft, work on softening your look, softening your language, softening and just kind of changing the way you think about yourself. Some of us as women, we can be so critical of ourselves. You wake up in the morning, you get in the mirror and you're like, oh, I hate my thighs. No, love it all and do what you need to do in terms of taking care of yourself with, good nutrition and sustainable, beautiful exercise to better yourself. But just get comfortable in your femininity, put on a dress, put on your makeup, do your hair. That's one thing that I would say for this pandemic, the shelter in place period, George. There has not been a day that I have gotten up and not gotten dressed and powdered my nose and glossed my lips. Maybe I don't do a full face of whatever, or maybe I don't take an hour of doing something to my hair, but I just make sure to to look nice, to look as pretty as I can, and just, hey, rest comfortably in that femininity. And ladies, you will be amazed at how much help will just come from men around you when you rest comfortably in your femininity. So,
yeah. And it's not manipulative, and there's no end in mind. That in itself is the end.
Yeah.
Rest your own femininity. You said something about being soft, because I teach men to harden up, which is a masculine, manly thing to do. Men think that they need to soften up to make themselves more attractive to women. Can you comment on that?
There is nothing more unattractive than a soft man. And one of the things that attracted me to your channel is that you were not that. What attracts women, feminine women, okay, is a man who is the opposite of femininity. What attracted me to you is you're so different from me. You just, there's so many aspects of you and who you are, the way that you teach, the way you speak to men, the way you speak to women. It's so, I can't do that. And I don't want to do it, but I love it. Yeah. I love that you got that. You handle that great. And it's that polarity, that sexual polarity, that difference that makes it, that builds attraction. And so that breakup that I had, that individual, he was very into softness. He at one point later on, when, pretty much close to the breakup, he called himself a feminist. And it's just like, so obviously that didn't work, but it's a turnoff. It's just not what we as women want. We don't want that. We want you to be the rock, as you say. Yes, that's what we want.
You are wired to be soft. We are wired to be hard. And when we kind of mix that up, that's a recipe for disaster, isn't it?
It is. It kills attraction and it kills respect. Men want to be respected, and you can't respect a man who is like you. You can't respect a man who allows you to grind harder than he does. It's just, it messes up respect. And then a masculine man doesn't want a woman who's hard, ladies. So, hey, you got, if you want to attract to your, female viewers, if you want to attract, and I hate, sometimes I don't like to use that term female, but for the women and girls who are watching, if you want to attract a masculine man, you have to soften up. You got to keep it soft. Let him do the hard thing.
Yeah. I like that. You have a background in, it's not called bodybuilding, is it? What is the proper term?
So I do bikini and figure bodybuilding. I got into it kind of by accident. My aunt, who's in her 50s, she started competing and winning shows, and she's had 5 children. And so I saw what she was doing. She encouraged me, and a couple other girlfriends of mine encouraged me to do it after getting into fitness. And that was another transitional period. I had to have a breakdown to have a breakthrough. So again, in my pursuit of masculinity under the feminism con, I gained all this weight. This was 10 years ago that I was diabetic and over 200 pounds, and I had high blood pressure. I had diabetic. I had enlarged thyroid. I had all these health issues. And my doctor basically told me, either you get yourself together or I'm going to have to put you on metformin and some other medications. He told me, you have the health of a 70-year-old woman. I said, oh, goodness, no. So I started doing some research, got back into my nutrition, and took it all the way. So, yeah, I do compete.
And I noticed that particular discipline that you're in, it's not about size. It's not about competing with men. The whole figure, what do they call it? The figure building, or what, the bikini, it's still very feminine. It's not like a bunch of men with long hair on the stage. Tell me the difference between what you do and what male bodybuilders do.
So when we prepare for a competition, a show, we're looking to get lean and toned, not to grow. I don't want 20-inch biceps. No, we're looking to lean out and to grow. We're looking to lean out, not grow. We're looking to be toned. We want tiny waists. So you want the X factor. The guys are not necessarily going for that. We also get judged on our whole presentation. So hair, makeup, femininity, your walk, your posing, and the posing is very feminine. The poses that I do are nothing you would ever see Mr. Olympia do. We're walking in heels. One of the things that I do to practice my posing for a show is I put a book on my head and walk back and forth in my living room in heels. That prepares me for competing because I need to make sure that I stand up tall and walk tall. Even the training is different. I'm not necessarily going for growth. And so I'm not trying to say, oh, okay, this week I'll squat 250, next week 500. No, what we're doing is time under tension with heavy weights, but heavy weights for women within reason. And then, women in general, if you are working out, training your muscles, you're not going to get big unless you start taking some sort of enhancements. You need testosterone to grow. And so, yeah, that is not the goal with what I do.
Yeah, I found that quite fascinating because some women, I know at one of the gyms that I go to, some of the women, it's almost as if their goal is to look like a man. And that's opposite of what you want. You still retain your femininity. No one's going to confuse you for a man. Other women are going to look at you and think, wow, I wish I could be like that.
Yes, and I've gotten nothing. And I think one of your viewers, he may have commented under a video where you had mentioned me bodybuilding, and he was like, oh, I don't like women looking like that. And I know I get what he's talking about, those women who look like men with wigs on. And so what I do is nothing like that. And I get nothing but positive feedback from other women when I go to the gym to work out. They never accuse me or look at me like, oh, she looks like a man. They're always like, oh, how do you get so lean? How do you get so toned? How do you snatch that waist? And so that is really one of the focus of what I do with my training. So yeah, no, we are not trying to compete with men, not trying to look like men. No.
Yeah. I noticed that you have a very conservative look, the way you are dressed. And I don't comment on women's clothing much because this is not the time of, this is not a good time in history for men to be talking to women about their bodies and about clothing, how they look, and boy, you look sexy and all that kind of stuff. So it's given contemplative men, it's helped us dial back a little bit, not dial back the masculinity, but I will comment on your look and the looks that I've seen you in. You've been very conservative. You have been all out there, but yet you are still feminine. So how can a woman show very little flesh but still be feminine?
I think it comes down to that mindset, that feminine mindset, a mindset of softness, a focus on beauty, a focus on just feminine allure doesn't necessarily, you don't need to show cleavage for that. You don't need to, show your, I don't need to do ab checks every 5 minutes or every day. I actually, I don't, and I'm not to, knock my colleagues in the industry who want to do ab checks. That's fine for them. But for me, it's just, it's not necessary. I don't think it's something that I need to do. And again, it gets back to that resting comfortably in your femininity, that putting your cleavage out there, the ab checks, the showing myself doing the deadlifts with the back shots. You can see my bottom. That's all very aggressive. That's what, that gets back to that polarity. It's to do that is it's aggression. It's better to less is more. I'll say that when it comes to that, less is more. If you want to keep it feminine, and you can be cute and show less. You can be beautiful and pretty and show less. So yeah, I am pretty conservative. Some of my friends say I'm a little bit too conservative because they say I dress like I'm old lady, but whatever. It's okay.
Yeah, it is okay. I can confirm. So, well, I'll tell you what. Thank you for joining me on a Saturday night. It's been a great conversation. I hope we can do it again. I like your perspective, and I always have more questions for you, but I just wanted to give my audience a little taste of who you are, what you are, and kind of whet their appetite for more conversations in the future. Are you open to that?
I'm definitely open to that. And I just want to say one thing, George, because the kind of the other extreme of the red pill, guys who are very hurt and broken. I have a brother who's been through that. He's been through, some challenges. And that I just want to say something to those guys that some of us as women, we were taught that, and we were taught it in error. We just didn't get it. And so I just, I don't want to necessarily say I'm apologizing on behalf of women, but we didn't know. So many of us had no idea about this feminism con. So I hope the guys will start to understand, or some of them who have been hurt start to understand that so many of us, we were engineered this way. We had no idea how detrimental and how destructive it was. We thought, oh yeah, we had no idea. We were tricked, and we, are in recovery, going through a process of self-reflection and healing now. So yeah, that's all.
Wow, that is appreciated. And I will tell you, there's a lot of men where their fist is going to lighten up. They're going to unclench their hands. They're going to feel tension just melt out of their body when they hear these words, because I think it's time for a reconciliation to come. The whole concept of the battle of the sexes. I don't want to be at war with women. I don't want it. You don't want to be at war with men. We don't want to be each other's pawns. We don't want to fight. I just think if we keep using that battle terminology, that aggressive, violent terminology, and I'm not negating all the bad stuff that's happening to men and the bad stuff that's happening to women, but if we keep using the language of warriors, then we're just going to keep getting those results.
Absolutely. It's time to change our language. And I like the way that you, in your delivery, you're always throwing words and phrases, concepts and ideas that are about bringing us together rather than, us versus them, And so, yeah, I agree with that. And I'd love to talk more about that, because I think a lot of guys think that it's intentional. No, we were tricked, and we mad that we were tricked.
Yes.
And, it's been a lot. It's been something. So
yes. Well, awesome. I think this is going to be a great series of talks. I look forward to more. And I don't even know what to call this. I was thinking, I once did a Friday night chill pill. This might be the Saturday night chill pill. Who knows?
Okay. That's fine with me. Fine with me.
So it's been wonderful talking with you, and I look forward to more of it. And I encourage all of the people who are going to be watching this to intelligently comment down below. And if you were touched or moved at all by what you saw tonight, the conversation, the dynamics between a man and a woman, to be encouraged. We don't have to be enemies. Yes, I know there are people out there that have hurt you. This is my message. There are people that hurt you. to the men, there are women that hurt you, but not all women want to hurt you. And I think what we did tonight was opened up dialogue, intelligent conversation, speaking from the heart. Man, we touched on everything from C.S. Lewis to bodybuilding and femininity and masculinity. But I think next time I want to talk about carnivore and keto. How does that sound?
That sounds great. I love it. Yes, carnivore and keto. I've done both. So, yeah.
and I know you've had some practice in the nutritional world. So I think that'd be a great topic for next time.
Sounds good. Sounds
Excellent.
Great. Thank you, George. And thank you for all that you're doing. You keep great work, great body of work. I'm looking forward to what's to come from your channel. Great work. Thank you.
Thanks.